So we normally start the podcast with a quote. I didn't prepare a quote.
I mean, we could use part of a quote that came from an Amazon oh my God.
Amazon review.
You can just edit that out, right?
I'm not. It's all staying. Everything up to this point.
The review, the very first part of it is they called it Cheese-tastic Trash Fun.
I'd say that's pretty apt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of sounds like they're making an excuse for it, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's still fun, even if it's not good.
Which may be because
think that's what they're
everybody
trying to
remembers it from their childhood.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the intro music.
Yay!
Welcome back after many months of break to Watchers on the Couch, Castle Rock, featuring myself, Chris Nays, and
Debbie Hodges.
Debbie Hodges. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great.
Yeah?
I'm tired.
You're tired?
Mm-hmm.
I spent a wonderful night at work last night.
I know. I don't know why I'm saying I'm tired. I just slept.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is kind of prime time for me to do stuff right after work.
I don't know how you
Like
do
when
it.
my brain can now function normally outside of work environment, you know? You get in that work brain where it's just like, I'm doing a thing, I'm doing a thing. You're not really thinking, you're just doing. But now I get to do something fun after work.
And you get to think.
And I get to think about stuff that I actually like or sort of not like.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to that. Today we are not covering Castle Rock because new season has not started.
Nope.
That will come later. At some point, undetermined as of yet. But towards the end of the first season, we discussed kind of what Stephen King stuff we should do in the off time.
Mm-hmm.
And we sort of came to the conclusion that one that would be fun to cover is the miniseries It from 1990.
Yes.
Now,
In preparation for also the new It
right.
coming out later this year.
Yeah, I think it's coming
second
out in the
part.
summer, right? Is that
Yeah,
right?
sometime. It's sooner, I thought, than the last one.
Maybe. I don't know if they even said an actual date yet. But we're both excited for that because the chapter 1 of that, or was it part 1? I can't remember what they said.
I think it's chapter 1. I don't know.
But that was great.
It was amazing.
I actually only ever saw it once.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'm going to probably have to borrow that Blu-ray from you.
Oh, yeah, of course. We saw it in theaters, and then when it came out on DVD, we bought it and watched it, and then watched all the bonus features, which were amazing. So I recommend watching all the extras.
Oh, yeah. I love bonus features, by the way.
Yeah.
And
they're great, and the kids are just so adorable.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. And it's so funny because, like, they just never see Bill Skarsgård.
Right.
You know, like, the whole time they're just talking about how, like, they never see him.
Yeah.
Until, like, the big reveal.
So we're definitely going to have to mention the new movie, the one that we've already seen of the two in the series, because in comparison, you kind of have to mention it now that everybody sort of knows.
Well, because everybody's comparing them now.
Yeah.
As you should.
They're like what the miniseries could have been.
Had it not been on, like, ABC.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with it. But we're going to cover both parts of the miniseries here today. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely not going to be like the Castle Rock shows, though, because we're not going to go through scene by scene. No. That would take way too long.
Yeah, it would take 6 hours because the movie's 3.
The movie's 3 altogether, and you know how we like to kind of pick things apart. Mm-hmm. And so that's not happening. But what we're going to do is kind of just go through it, mention stuff that we liked, stuff that we disliked, specific scenes that we're into. And I think that's kind of the plan, right?
I wrote down a lot of things that made me laugh.
Okay, yeah, me too, because it gets kind of ridiculous.
It's cheese-tastic fun.
But we both did take notes, so I feel like we're just going to progress through the movies. Did you take them like linearly?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know if that's a word or not, but I just made it one.
Yes.
So if you are listening and you haven't watched It Parts 1 and 2 from 1990, very easily available online. I believe right now, or at least whenever I watched this, it was on YouTube for a couple of dollars.
It's also on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. You can go, most likely, if you live in a city of any kind, you can go to the library and request it.
Or if they can't get it, you can go to your local Walmart.
Yeah. So my viewing experience consisted of borrowing the original DVD version from Jimmy. Then I requested it from the library because I thought it was their Blu-ray.
Which they do have a Blu-ray
Right.
of.
I found that out after.
I found that out too.
So at the library, they had the exact same DVD copy from, I guess it came around probably like late 90s or
whenever
2000.
DVDs were coming out. Yeah, and they were re-releasing.
Because it's like the old school version with the flap on the side. Like you click it open, and then you have to flip the disc over to watch the second part.
I had to flip mine too, but I didn't have that kind of cover. I have a new cover art. It was like re-released.
So the library version also had a different, like, had the same stuff on the back, but it was just like ordered differently. It was weird. You know, there's so many different versions of DVDs that collectors get like really into that, like weird versions that you can find overseas and all kinds of stuff like that. But the library and the Jimmy version were different from each other, but the features on them exactly the same. And the layout of the DVD, menu screens and everything is exactly the same.
That great music.
Yeah. And I actually did listen to both directors' commentaries. So I went all the way.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
You went all in.
Because we got Sonoma-geddon here, and that left me plenty of time to do that. So, without further ado, I feel like we've done enough of a preamble.
And you did say this, but it is worth mentioning again. If you do get the DVDs of it, make sure you are flipping the disc halfway through.
Yeah.
Because it's going to end in a bathroom scene, and you're going to be like, that's it?
Yeah.
It's not.
It's not.
There's still like another hour and a half, but
Exactly.
it just can't all fit on one side.
Yeah. Well, it couldn't then.
Right.
Actually, I don't know if still DVDs
How
can...
many VHS tapes would this movie have taken? And would it be... Because Titanic was 3. No, it was 2.
It was 2.
2 VHS. So,
I don't remember, but I'm going to guess that it was only 2 because it didn't have any extras.
Could you not sit on that? Thank you.
Should we start cat interruptions again? Because Venom is...
The cat's trying to sit on my donut.
He's smelling your chocolate milk, too.
That's coffee, actually.
Oh, okay.
He's big into coffee. Would you not lick my coffee?
Oh, boy.
Jerk.
So, yeah, definitely watch both parts and then unpause the podcast and start it again now. So let's get into this, shall we? Part 1.
I wrote it, otherwise known as my worst nightmare.
So, okay, yeah, we should actually mention that if we've watched this in the intervening years between childhood and now. So, when I was a kid, I watched this for the first time, a little bit of it, at my grandma's house. She lives out in the country, and she would just throw on whatever for us. You know, rated R movies, anything.
Good.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, great grandparenting. It definitely scarred me. I think I mentioned, you know, when we were doing Castle Rock that I would literally drive around sewer openings on my bike, like not anywhere close to them.
Well, yeah, you don't want to get sucked in.
Yeah, and I didn't ever really have a fear of clowns, I don't think. We went to the circus when I was a kid, but like I definitely like don't really like clowns.
Yeah.
I'm not a clown person.
No.
So it potentially had something to do with that. But I had not watched it since then. Aside from the new movie or whatever. I maybe caught it on cable when I was in like junior high school or high school maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it. But I definitely have an aversion to this movie. I don't really.
You stayed away.
I didn't watch it on purpose,
right?
For a long time until we had reason to, and just thinking about it, my memory of it, I could sort of already tell it was not going to age well, which is why another reason I didn't watch it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I had seen scenes on YouTube and stuff.
There's some movies that you just don't want to ruin for your childhood, whether it scared you or not.
Yeah, like I haven't watched The Goonies in a really long time because I have very fond memories of it. I don't want to spoil them. We just watched it.
It's still pretty cute.
Okay.
It's cheesy, but it's still pretty cute.
Isn't that a Spielberg movie too?
I think so.
I believe it is. So you almost can't spoil that.
No, I mean.
So the later the third Indiana Jones movie, I remember liking as a kid. That one doesn't age as well. It's sort of like all comedy. But anyway, what was your experience watching it?
So what's funny is I watched it at my mom's friend's house. Her daughter was watching me. So my mom's friend's daughter, who wasn't that much older than me. And I would say I was probably 10, I think. Because it came out, 1990?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think I was 10 when I watched it, or around that age. And I still, where she lived are some of the back roads around here, and anytime I pass that road, I immediately think of watching that movie.
Really?
It's such a main thing, in my head that is just bam, that road, I watch that movie down that road.
Yeah, it's imprinted.
Yeah, and it has been all my life now. Anytime I drive past there, I think about that movie. And how this girl who was my friend tortured me with this movie and made me watch it. And then I locked myself in the bathroom because I was so scared. And then outside the door, she was saying, "Debbie, help me, Debbie." Freaking me out even more, which gave me this very awesome OCD.
About bathrooms?
Yes.
Yeah, you've told me that before.
I've told everybody because it's so stupid what it did. I could not go to sleep at night without making sure the drain in my sink was closed, without making sure the toilet seat cover was completely closed, and with that, making sure my shower was intact.
Wow.
Every night, I had to make sure all of those things were good in my bathroom.
Yeah.
All the way through high school.
Wow. Well, I mean, better safe than sorry, right? I guess blood is going to come out of there.
I don't know what I thought was coming out of there. I thought something was. It scarred me.
Yeah.
And gave me
So did you not watch it in the many years
No, I didn't watch it at all.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck that movie.
Did you own it?
No. I didn't want anything to do with it.
How did you procure it to watch it?
This time?
Yeah.
Oh, because when the new one came out, then we bought the original.
Oh, okay. So did you watch it when you bought it then?
We watched half of it, and we couldn't get through it.
Okay. Why did you not watch the rest of it? Did you just get tired, or?
Well, when we bought it, it was when we just moved in here. We didn't have cable yet, so we were downstairs watching it, and I think it was just late because we were already an hour and a half into it, which felt like a regular movie, and then we still had another 2 hours to go.
Yeah, you had a whole other night of watching.
But we just never went back to it, and the whole time we watched it, we were just like, oh man.
So it's kind of fresh for you too.
Yeah.
This was what's great about not watching it for so long I'll give it that it was a totally fresh new experience for me.
I mean, I remembered everything as it was happening,
sure,
yeah. But I've definitely seen the new part 1 of it more times than I've seen the original, because the original scared me so badly I never wanted to see it.
Well, I'll say that upon this rewatch, I was definitely not scared.
Not scared at all.
This is actually not a very scary watching experience.
No. It's a very bright movie.
Yeah. It has a strange feeling to it that I didn't remember feeling like when I watched it, many years ago. But let's start from the beginning, shall we?
Okay.
First thing I note is the stark difference between TV shows and miniseries then to where TV is now. Because TV now takes a lot of chances. They can kind of do whatever they want on TV now, and you could tell
depending on the time of night. Yeah, it's airing.
But you could tell their limitations are put on this interpretation of the book.
Yes.
I recently read the entire book. Not really in preparation for this podcast necessarily, but just because I had never read it and I had a lot of spare time on my hands, so I'm like, I'm going to check it out. It's one of his seminal works. And yeah, I wrote down that there is significantly less money and quality actors and soundtrack in this.
That music, oh my god.
So the sound. Let's just mention the soundtrack right off the bat.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of everything in the soundtrack. There's a little bit of symphony ish stuff, and then the rest of it sort of sounds like a Casio keyboard.
Yeah.
It's definitely super dated, the soundtrack.
Yes.
Very much of its time. I feel like the entire thing is of its time.
Oh, for sure.
But in TV of that time, you got less quality. You know what I mean? Yeah. I feel like the difference between movies and TV was such for several years that people in movies never wanted to go to TV.
Yeah, you didn't.
And people in TV really wanted to go to movies so that they could escape this world of less quality, I think.
Yep, I totally agree.
So I feel like this sort of, in a general sense, suffers of that.
But they have well-known actors.
It's peppered with well-known actors. Some of them, not so much. I feel like the kid actors were, and as kid actors kind of are anyway, they're not really.
Well, the only two kid actors that were well known was Jonathan Brandis, who killed himself when he was 27.
Oh,
so
really?
No
Wait,
around.
okay,
Yeah.
so which one is that?
Jonathan Brandis, that's Bill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know he killed himself. That's crazy.
Because we were looking it up the other night because he was on Sequest.
Yeah, he was
the
also
show.
in the movie Sidekicks with Chuck Norris.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's how I mainly remembered him.
Yeah.
Which is so a weird, reference, but.
Well, I knew he had killed himself a long time ago, and I didn't realize he was part of the 27 Club, but he hung himself.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And I don't know if you were about to mention Seth Green.
Yeah, and Seth Green was the other kid that was.
And this is before he was known, though.
No, but he was still a child actor. He had been in lots of stuff before that. He was in My Stepmom's an Alien.
Yeah.
He was
in. Right. He actually had a famous commercial of some kind back then.
Yeah, he was in Can't Buy Me Love. He was the little brother. He had done a lot of stuff.
Sure, but this is still very early in his.
Yeah.
In
but
his career.
He's probably the most famous person that came out of. Besides.
John Ritter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
John Ritter is definitely a high point of this movie, I feel like.
I didn't realize how much he was rocking that beard, man. He was looking
totally.
kind of fine in this.
Also, the guy that plays Richie, I gotta find.
He was on something on a TV show.
Yes. I'm trying to see.
It wasn't Night Court, was it?
Yes, it was.
Oh my God, was it?
He played Judge.
That's right.
I think Judge Harry.
That's right.
I want to say.
Oh my God.
So
I
he's
love
super
Night
famous
Court.
for that. He was in a bunch of other stuff too, though. I don't know where I wrote that down, but it'll be somewhere. And
then the guy who plays Mike Hanlon, he was on Sister.
Yes,
he is dead.
I remembered him from that. So those are kind of the general overview of people who we know. It's weird. Our kind of references would be different from people that watched this in 1990 who were adults. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They would know John Ritter from Three's Company.
Right.
I don't know about you, but I never watched any Three's Company, really.
I was big into TV Land when I was younger, so I watched Three's Company.
John Ritter was also in the Problem Child movie, so I remember from that.
Yeah.
But he's great. He's just a super well-known, just great actor. So they scored some good people for these, and from the commentary, some of these people are in there. John Ritter's heavily featured in the commentary. And he talks about being a super huge Stephen King fan and makes references and stuff, but we'll get to that later.
That's cute.
So I did want to mention generally that the scenes seem really fast. Since you're reading the book, that Stephen King takes his time.
Yeah.
This is a long book, so he kind of he gets flowery sometimes, and
he spent an entire. Okay, so I'm reading it on my phone, so it's a little screen that I'm reading it on. But he spent 3 pages of me swiping, describing all the medication that was in Eddie, right? Eddie, yeah. In Eddie's bathroom, in his cabinet in his bathroom, right. 3 fucking pages telling you what every single item was, and I was like, I don't need to know this, Stephen King. Like, I'm skimming now. Like, I don't need to know this.
Well, but what's great about having that extra time that they don't have in this, clearly, like, yes, you have 3 hours, but 3 hours in a 1,000-page book is that those don't equal each other.
Yeah.
So he gets tons of time to fully realize all of these characters, and there's a lot of them. Mm-hmm. So that I feel like suffers, and that makes this suffer a little bit, and it's okay, but when you're comparing the two in your head while you're watching it, you are, without even thinking about it, you're just like, okay, well, that's not the same, and then this is the same, and this isn't the same.
I'll be interested to see what characters in the books are kind of main players that just never make it into the movie.
Yeah,
because so far there's several.
Well,
but I don't know if they're going to come back to them.
Most of the main players are also in this.
Okay, so it's just the kids,
but to varying extents, though.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I'll talk about that as well as we go through. I did also mention that some parents come across as loving in this movie. There's a couple scenes where, parents of certain kids are like, they actually give a shit about the kids. But in the book, almost none of them are this way.
No.
Pretty much the entire town, whether they're friends or their family members or whoever, acquaintances, they're non-existent in the lives of the kids, or they turn away when shit is going wrong, which they actually feature a little bit of that in this movie.
Yeah,
but it's made clear that no one cares.
Right.
Like the kids are almost literally in their own world, while there's sort of like this mask put over the town. A curse is literally, like you said, over the town.
The kids are making adult decisions because the adults are just turning a blind eye.
Yeah. So, we also, before we decided we were going to do this, that we kind of were with this sort of plan going in, so this wasn't get too long. When I thought we were going to be pressed for time, was to just pick our favorite scenes and talk about those, and that's kind of it. But I think we're going to not do that, and we're just going to go through, and I'll talk about scenes when we get to them. And I think you wrote down some scenes too. So, here's the first example of that. Ben, Bill, and Eddie meet in the Barrens. We see the Bowers gang, and they kind of chase. Who do they chase in there?
Ben.
Is it Ben? Yeah. Okay. So the Bowers gang sort of goes away, and we see sort of the beginnings of a great friendship. Sort of the start of the Losers Club. But differences in this is that you already see that this is going to be a way less violent version than the book. Spoilers for the book, but they carve, they try to carve Henry's name. Henry tries to carve his name into his stomach. He gets an H.
And they don't even show that.
They don't. Yeah, that literally doesn't even happen. He just hides in the.
Well, they really don't show any death.
Right.
Too much. I mean, all it is like...
It's a pretty tame version of
you see
story.
A lot of teeth on Pennywise, and then close-up of his face, turning towards you. And then you hear screaming, and then lifeless body. Yeah,
that's kind of like all that you get of scary Pennywise is close-ups of his face, teeth, and scary sequences with balloons and blood on people's faces.
I was surprised how much he isn't in the movie.
Because your memory of it is he was super scary.
Yeah, it was all up in it. The whole time I was closing my eyes, and there's a lot of
kids are impressionable, I guess, because
I apparently filtered out all the boring stuff.
Yeah. There's a lot of boring stuff. So it says here, stick to flashing back from adulthood to memories that are very fragmented. So that's kind of how we tell the story in the first part, is that, and that is kind of how he tells it in the book, is like we go from past events to present events. So already we have a sort of different timeline than the book completely.
Stephen King is a man who loves his flashbacks.
Yeah.
And his jumbled timelines.
Yeah. But he does it well, though, you know.
He does not write in a straight line, though.
Right. Whole, especially this book, it's the whole first part, which is a big chunk, is these kind of sequences where they go back and you see how it's affected them in their later life. And you get like I said, a more fully realized version of these characters that you definitely don't get in this version. It's TV sanitized Stephen King. So obviously already you could tell I'm not really enjoying from the start. I'm kind of not enjoying it.
So the very first kill in the movie, it made me laugh so hard because when they zoom in on the mom when she comes back outside and the tricycle bike or whatever like wheel is spinning, and they zoom in on her and she makes this laugh, and I just love how like there's so much like grabbing of the face, you know, and just like the horror. But I was laughing so hard. And I was like, the first part, like, you know, one of the first things you see in the movie, and I was like, oh, this isn't going to be good.
Yeah.
It set the tone for the rest of the movie for me.
The tone is it's established pretty early, kind of what this is going to be. And, you know, the acting, the TV acting of that time is just, it's very limited all the way around, you know. And the soundtrack isn't helping either.
No.
Because in horror movies, that's super important.
Oh, yeah. The music
you know what
is
I mean?
very important.
Yeah. It tells you when you're supposed to be super scared.
Exactly.
And when it's a Casio keyboard, I don't care what is going on the screen.
It's not scary.
It's not scary. It's a Casio keyboard.
It's weird.
So next scene I wanted to mention is the Beverly bathroom scene, of course. The gurgly blood voice of Pennywise, "You'll die if you try." I liked that as much as I could like it, I guess. You know, so that's one that stuck out anyway. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I could see how you would have been scared of that as a kid, because I guess you're supposed to be seeing it from Beverly's point of view,
right?
You know, like as a kid, would you be scared?
I would freak the fuck out
if a giant blood stain thing burst all over the room and then
continued to burst.
Yeah, but then nobody else sees it, and she's continually horrified.
Right.
You know? So what if you were that person and you're seeing blood everywhere and nobody's seeing it? I would be fucking scared too.
I mean, I would run from my bathroom. Like when I was done in there at night, like I bolted.
Yeah. So in that sense, yes, I would be scared of that. Watching this was not.
Not at all. No.
So then we go to Eddie. Well, I sort of skipped around and just wrote down things that I mentioned. So if anything happens in between these that you want to mention, just throw it in there.
Well, I was really sad that in the new movie, they don't say beep beep Richie, do they?
I don't remember.
I don't think they do. And I was really disappointed.
Yeah.
Because I felt like that was just such a memorable part of this movie, was the beep beep Richie.
It's a through line
of
his character.
Yeah, and then it's also something that Pennywise throws back in his face.
Yep.
You know, like
in the library. When he's taunting him.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Okay.
So you mentioned the library?
Yeah.
I was so pissed off at their lack of detail in the library.
Yeah.
Because you see Mike Hanlon in the library and he's making the phone calls, but then you see behind him bookshelves that supposedly have the Dewey Decimal numbers on the spine or on the end cap to show you
they're
like
not in order.
So they wrote childcare 500 and then pregnancy 720, and I was like, what the fuck? That's not childcare is 649.
Okay.
And pregnancy is 618.
And this is standardized across the board.
It's Dewey is, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
if you're doing the Dewey Decimal, which is what they were doing, because if they were doing Library of Congress, they have letters in there.
Okay.
And it's a totally different system, and
Yeah.
it fucks with me anytime I go to a library that has it, because I'm like, what the fuck's going on?
So we should mention to listeners, if they don't know Debbie, you work at a library.
I work in a
That's how
library.
you remember all this.
For the past 18 years.
Right.
Yeah, so, and then later on, they show another set of numbers, and I was like, no.
No, it's not.
This is not
Yeah,
right.
because they go back to the library later.
Yeah. What was it? I don't know, but I was very upset. Oh, they said, I don't remember. But yeah, 720 is for house plans, like floor plans, and 500 is science. So 500 is not childcare, and 720 is not pregnancy.
I love when movies have these things in the background that like they're like, oh no, nobody will
notice.
Except for everyone who's ever been in the library. Hello.
Yeah. So do not go by their Dewey numbers.
Yeah.
Like if you're thinking, oh hey, now I know where pregnancy is in the library. No, you don't.
Well, I have a pretty sneaking suspicion that nobody's ever watched this movie and is like, oh, I'll go check out that from just purely watching this.
It was just such a poor misrepresentation of the library.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to think like in movies, they're not going to go and label everything perfectly in the background.
I didn't label anything perfectly because the other bookshelves, and I didn't write it down, were also wrong.
Maybe
so
they're just
wrong.
like blank.
Yeah, they didn't have to put anything. All they had to put was like pregnancy.
Oh yeah, if it's in the background, it can just be jumbled.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't need to. Yeah. So anyway, now that we're off of that sticking point, let's see. Eddie's childhood sequence is much different. Losers Club attacks the gang. I'm not sure what this means, but I wrote shower scene ?
Oh yeah, the showers grew and started attacking him.
Yeah, does that not I don't think that happens in the book. Is that right?
I did not read that.
I was gonna say no. That okay? So they just made that up.
I haven't gotten there yet, but I don't
believe that that's in the book. But corrections department, send us a text or something.
But it was so weird because it's like the shower poles just like started coming out of the wall, like the mounts, and got so long, and then they got so heavy, so they're like wobbling.
Yeah.
And I could just imagine like guys on the other end like trying really hard not to hit this kid in the head, with shower heads.
It was pretty goofy. It wasn't scary.
And then also, he was not scared. Like,
No.
wouldn't you be scared if shower heads were growing like 6 feet in length and coming out and attacking you?
Well, it seems he was more scared of showering in general.
Yeah, and the only
Like-
time he got his asthma attack is when Pennywise came up from the ground. I'm like, I would have been fucking scared before that.
Yeah.
When the shower heads were attacking me.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I don't know. It's just goofy. Nothing is working.
It's just...
If it's supposed to be scary, I don't know. If I want somebody to message us if they were scared by this movie because it's so clearly not scary.
As an adult.
Yeah. It's so clearly not.
Because I'm sure if I showed it to Dexter, because he's so, oh my God, he wants to watch He wants to watch these movies so bad.
Well, the new one is legit scary.
Oh yeah, I'm not showing him that.
Yeah, that would freak him out probably.
Well, he's only seen one, or no, I've let him see 2 scenes of the new Pennywise movie, or It movie, I should say. And it was things where Pennywise the clown is on the screen, but he's not doing anything creepy. And so I'd be like, Dexter, come in here, and I'd pause it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, it's Pennywise. And he's like, cool. And then he'd just stand there. I'm like, all right, go away now. And go away. And then I'd unpause it. And then, Pennywise is killing people again, But I'm like, there you go. You saw the movie.
Ripping children's arms off.
Right.
Good Lord.
But when you pause it, just the right moment, he's not as scary.
Yeah. Okay, so...
But I have a feeling this original would petrify him, I'm sure.
It'd at least be more appropriate for you to show him this version, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Show him the sanitized version, let him get a little bit older, and then see the really scary stuff. But, next note I had is that Bowers definitely doesn't have a threatening look at all.
No.
He just looks like a little kid.
He looks like a little greaser.
Well, but he's like, they're supposed to be in, I don't know about it in the book, but I guess in this movie they're supposed to be in late grade school or early middle school.
Yeah, because they're like 12.
Yeah, but
Henry Bowers has failed a whole bunch, so
and
he's
Greasers,
older.
I feel like we're in high school.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't. His look with the leather jacket and stuff, it doesn't seem like something you would pick up in grade school.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks unnatural on him to me, and he just doesn't come across as scary. Their gang is not scary. They're little kids.
Like he's trying to be Danny Zuko from Grease.
Yeah, and even Danny Zuko's like 10 years older than him.
He was like 30 playing a high schooler.
Right. So yeah, the gang's not scary. No. They don't attempt to carve anything in anybody. So I believe they're portrayed as even younger in the book. But if they're kids stabbing people because they're fucking crazy because they live in this town, that's more acceptable and is actually scary because they're kids with knives.
Stabby, yeah.
Yes, getting stabby. And, they're legitimately threatening in the book. So, okay, so I already mentioned the soundtrack, so we're going to move past that.
I also absolutely hate Bill's ponytail. I hated it when I watched it when I was a kid. I don't know. I feel
like it's a wig.
It looks terrible, and it bothers me.
If it isn't a wig, it just looks bad.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
And I remember when I watched it when I was little and thinking, that's just the worst thing in the world.
Well, see, this is coming out of the 80s. Guys with ponytails and guys with mullets was definitely a thing.
Oh, my God. It was so bad.
So, I got one.
Yeah, but do you get like a string and then like tie a bow in the back?
Oh, no.
Is that how like you hold it together?
I mean, it seems like his is kind of girly looking. Yeah, you're right.
And then
he comes across as feminine.
That thing on his face. I'm not sure. Mole? Yeah, I'm not sure if he had it or if Jonathan Brandis had it. Because one of them really has it, and then the other one had to have it for continuity purposes.
Well, it's the older guy.
The older guy really has it because
they
put it on Jonathan Brandis too.
Right. Jonathan Brandis did not have a mole as far as I know on his face anyway. I don't know about the rest of him.
I didn't think so. Yeah,
but it's weird.
There's nothing about adult Bill that I like.
The mole wasn't that distracting to me though, because I was more trying to take in all the other craziness that's happening, which it's chock full of. So, I wrote that the rock fight is so bad that it's great.
Oh my God! I know. Why wouldn't the bullies pick up rocks and throw them back?
Well, but see,
because they got kicked it. Because Ben Hanscom kicked the one guy in the butthole.
Yeah,
and then they all got scared and he ran away.
Yeah,
because he legit kicks him in the butthole.
Right?
Did you see that?
Yeah, but like in the book, they legit hit each other very hard with rocks, like where they're bloodied. And they get injured in the fight.
Well, and they kind of do that in the new movie. Like, they're all sides are throwing rocks.
You got the kid with the anthrax stuff on, and it's more set in the 80s in the new one. So, but yeah, like there's no sense of danger on either side in this. It looks like a rock fight I would have had as a kid, because you don't actually like. In the Creekbriar house, it would happen once in a while where the kids from the trailer park and the kids from our neighborhood will get into scuffles. We wouldn't legitimately be trying to hit each other with rocks. It was like a game. You know what I'm saying?
So when I was younger, my neighbor, there was a girl and a boy, okay? And I was friends with the girl, but her brother was older than us by like 2 years, I think. And they had a gravel driveway, and their driveway was the bus stop, which was stupid because I had to walk like one house over. I was like, but I'd go over there. Well, her and her brother like fought all the time, and he threw a rock at her and hit her in the head, and it was a rock like as big as my hand. You know?
Sizable. Yeah, and
threw it at her head and cracked her skull open.
Oh my God. See, that's Henry Bowers.
Yeah.
That's a guy in the book.
This is the kid who was a good kid, straight A student, and like he just got mad at his sister and threw a rock at her, and it just happened to hit her in the head. Like he's not like a vicious person, like he's grown up, and he's totally normal and fine or whatever. But like
kids just get out of control sometimes,
right? But not in this movie, apparently.
And that wouldn't happen today, by the way, because parents sit at the bus stop with their kid. That never happened when I was a kid. We never had a parent anywhere around.
No.
And we were fine. I'm not trying to, down parents of today or anything like that. Like you do you, but as far as like kids of this generation, that is represented in this movie, they're supposed to be from the 50s.
Yeah.
Shit can get out of control. So, and even up till your friend.
Yeah. We were like the last of the generations that had such little parental supervisions.
It's definitely not a thing that would happen today.
No, but apparently people are much more grabby of children. I don't know, like much more kidnappy.
It's really the ramping up of the fear everything
of the social media.
Yeah, media across the board. Like 24-hour news is shoved it in your face so often that kids get kidnapped that you're thinking
it happens every minute. Yeah.
Definitely going to get kidnapped.
Oh heck yeah.
So anyway, let's get off of that.
But not in the 50s. In the 50s, the kids just roamed around
and they beat each other with rocks.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I kind of mentioned before, there's very few lengthy monologues or scenes with just a couple of characters where they get to flesh out who these people are. You mostly get big group scenes. Everything is sped up to where it feels unnatural. I wrote, I need more character development. And I feel like part of the problem is the screenplay, because it's vastly different timeline, as I already mentioned before. Shit is all shifted around. It's way different. And when we're watching this after the knowledge of the book, we're always thinking about that. So my judgment of this version is heightened because I know how good the book was.
Right.
And the book actually like touches you because you know what it's like to grow up as a kid and have crazy shit go on and there's no parents around. You know what I mean? So, and that's kind of the point, is like the book is telling you the importance of friendship and what it means to you when you're a kid, and how all of that kind of goes away when you're an adult eventually, but the memories are still there, and how important those memories are and that kind of thing. And I feel like all of that's sort of absent from this. There's a little bit of kind of harkening back to that, like when they have the dinner scene and stuff like that. But
it's so weird, like the way they pet Bev, as adults, like the interactions of them as adults felt so unnatural.
I got
to me.
big problems with Bev's character in the TV version.
Well, I just didn't like how they haven't seen each other in forever, since they were kids, and they hadn't even thought about each other really since they were kids.
Well, the curse kind of affects them when they leave the town.
Yeah, but then they come together, and I don't know. It just was a very weird dynamic between all of them.
Well, yeah. And
I really, really did not like how they kept petting her.
Yeah.
And like, she was all over I don't know. I didn't like.
So there's a couple of different things.
I mean, I know what she did with them in the books.
Yeah, but
it doesn't make sense in this movie because they don't show any of that.
So in the movie, it just sort of happens. And they're together, and they all are best of friends again. In the book, King very much establishes that there is this curse, and when they come back to town, and the power of them being together, and you'll find that out because you're in the process of reading it right now. I don't know if we mentioned that or not, but later in the book, you get more of what is the power of this group of people together, what it means for those 7 specific people to join together, and then I guess it's
6.
It's 6, and then it's 5 because the one doesn't come back to town.
Well, no, it's 7 and then 6 only come back.
Okay, yeah, so I was right. I second guessed myself for a second.
Which isn't a spoiler because they show that in this movie,
right? So the power of this group of people, their union together, is what brings back all their memories and their friendship of each other, and what is ultimately their power against this monster.
Right, but because of what you said, they didn't flesh out the characters in the miniseries movie.
It just sort of happens.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and then you're like, well, there's no reason that I should accept that these people
care this much.
Yeah, or mean so much to each other. The curse is not as a prevalent a plot point as it maybe could have been.
They show it in the movie,
but there's like an ethereal aspect of this that they literally could not get into because it was too hard to explain. And I think the director sort of mentions that in the commentary. I'll talk about that later. But the limitations again of having to boil this down into a very limited screenplay it is evident in major plot points not even coming up. And therefore you don't accept it.
Right.
So it's a major weakness.
It was, because it definitely bothered me.
So towards the end of part 1, we have the kids battle scene with it. I thought this was totally decent compared to the rest of the stuff that goes on in this movie, or this first part anyway. Curry's actually scary once he's in the same room as the kids.
Yeah.
Before that, when he's just sort of like, I guess you're supposed to see him as like a phantom or a ghost or something that is ethereal or whatever. Once he's in there with them and he's a direct threat, he's a stronger villain than he was before. This entire first part, you're kind of like, well, I'm seeing through all of this because it's not scary.
Nope.
And all I'm hearing
I don't
is
even
keyboard.
think he's in the same room with them right now.
Right.
I'm pretty sure they're just cutting to him.
They're cutting to, and then they're looking away, and he's gone.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, if he wasn't there, then why am I supposed to be scared of him? And then we close with Stan killing himself in the tub. And we have one of the most cheesy fucking moments of this entire thing. Stan's wife's face.
Oh, my God.
When we get the close-up of her face, she's just like...
Again, holding her face.
It's like... unbelievably bad acting.
It's so bad.
It's so cheesy and bad.
It's so bad.
It's not even bad like objectively. It's unbelievable how I don't know if that was a one take thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we
Looks
got it.
Good to me.
Yeah. We're on TV time here, so not scary. When I was a kid, I probably didn't even realize what it was. You don't have a concept of suicide, really, when you're a kid watching it. So you just see a guy who's bloody in a bathtub.
And he wrote it.
Yeah, he wrote it.
Which I will say, I like how they portrayed that scene because it seemed pretty dead to real with the book.
Yeah.
She came up sick. I mean, their dynamic wasn't the same as like in the book where...
I think she had to break open the door, maybe.
Yeah, she had to break open the door, but the door was still closed. She was bringing up beer for him. He had been up there a while. It was weird that the door was closed.
Yeah, so like once in a while in this,
they got it.
They
right.
nailed it.
Yeah,
but it's mostly when the scenes are short enough to allow for them to nail it. You know what I mean? Like that whole sequence is not very long in the book, as far as I remember. He calls him. Stan is like, oh, I don't know. You know, he's very like unsure. You could tell it's bothering him worse than some of the other people.
But it's not from his perspective. It's all from his wife's perspective.
Oh, that's right.
The whole thing with Stanley.
Yeah. So you see her witnessing the phone call, and
and then you see her because she thinks it's weird that he's taking a bath at this time of night.
Yeah.
You know, because they establish in the book like what time of night he takes a bath.
It's odd that he would go up and do that.
Yeah, and then it was odd that he closed the door, and so she was downstairs for a while, and she was like, "Well, I guess I'll bring him a beer," and then she goes up there. So I mean. Hi.
We have Venom again.
Venom's here. Hi, baby. So yeah, so
you were okay with this scene?
I was okay with that.
I mean,
I didn't like her acting. I thought she sucked, but
when I watched it, I felt like that spoiled it for me.
Right.
And for her to be the end of part 1, I was like, okay, well, that puts a shitty button on the end of this one.
I don't know. I gotta flip it.
Now I gotta flip the DVD because it's 2000. So before we move on, though, since we're kind of comparing to the book, I do want to mention our Bev problem, because I feel like that's the most egregious change in character, and the sequence of Bev in this version is so different. So, yes, she's in bed with this guy who she's shacked up with, her live-in husband or boyfriend.
That dickhead, yeah.
Yeah. So I can't remember his name in the book, but he's extremely abusive.
Very, yes.
Like not like as in in the TV.
He hits her one time in the TV movie.
And again, I understand we're short on time, so we gotta cut this down and get it straight to the point.
And it's TV, and we don't want to be too violent, but
yeah, but
he beats the shit out of her.
If you want to, and like, you've read that part already in the book, right? Okay, so like little things like doesn't allow her to smoke,
right? But that's what the whole thing set him off. Like he didn't even care that she was trying to leave. And
King does a super good job of establishing Bev's character because she's so weak and so not herself anymore, and has been broken down as a person to where she's barely a person. You know what I'm saying? And you think when she gets the call, she's not getting out of there because she's not strong enough to get out of there.
But it flips a switch on her.
Yeah, but the phone call immediately like lightens the curse enough to where she's able to finally stand up for herself, and you love Bev in that moment, and you're like, fuck yeah, do whatever you got to do, get the hell out of there. And then they have this knockdown drag out.
Oh yeah,
where she like I think slams his head into a cupboard or something like that, like a dresser.
Well, she takes the belt from him and hits him several times, and then hits him in the balls, and then throws her dresser on top of his legs.
Yeah, and then he gets knocked out, but she still barely gets out of there.
Yeah,
she goes off running with like almost no clothes or anything on,
no shoes, no credit card, no.
And she like laughing hysterically as she's taking off in a taxi or something like that. So. That was one of my favorite sequences, and to see it bastardized down into this like
it was nothing like
super sanitized, like, and it's not even the same character. She's just like I don't know. She's just like this super kind of bland lady who's you don't get any of the roughness of Bev. You know what I'm saying? Like when she comes to the dinner in this new one, she's like rough around the edges, and she's kind of this cool chick. She's not this kind. I don't even know how to describe the TV version. It's just so bland. It's it's just like a woman.
Well, you didn't understand her urgency to leave. It was just like, obviously he hit you, so that's not cool. But
yeah, and at the dinner with everybody there, she kind of tries to explain away. She's like, "Yeah, I have a guy, but she doesn't ever get into it."
I have a guy. He's also my husband.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I got that across, that I was almost offended by how bad she's portrayed.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to part 2. We're already almost an hour in.
I don't remember what part this was in. I think it was in the beginning part.
Okay.
But I didn't realize that. So this aired on TV, but I wonder what was cut out from the TV version that we are seeing in the DVD, because they say the N-word twice in the movie. And I was very shocked to hear that, because I was like, I thought this was on TV. Like, did they add that in for the DVD only? Or was that a word you could say back in 1990 on TV?
Well...
I was very offended. I was like, why am I hearing this word?
Short answer is I don't know. But
did you notice it? Because Henry Bowers says
he definitely says it to Mike when they're kids.
Right.
As far as I can remember, there definitely is shit like that in the book.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the book is literally... That was my huge problem with the very beginning of the book, is just how all the hateful language. I understand he's trying to get like the characters across and like how they are,
but you can do it a little more like lightly.
It's hard to read.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's the thing where like sometimes art ages differently, and certainly our culture has moved away from that kind of language.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, people are way more sensitive. I was going to say a little more sensitive. It's way more sensitive. I mean, in 1990 on TV, you definitely couldn't say the N-word was not included in the dirty word you can't say on TV. That's the George Carlin thing, where he actually lines out what is the precise words you can't say.
Right.
You know? And
it wasn't?
It is not included.
Oh God.
So I want to say it was allowed.
Ugh.
Now
I just feel like that's just such a poor, like, that's just
it's in poor taste.
It is.
But they didn't beat you over the head with it either. Like, he said it once.
He said it twice.
And then they never say it again.
Right. But I felt like when he called him boy, I felt like that was far enough.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
Like,
the tone of how he said it.
Yeah. And I was you could have just kept saying that, and that still would have felt just as derogatory to me.
Totally. And, yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
I don't like when people say it either.
I didn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely worth mentioning. I should mention, though, on that topic, in the director's commentary, that the kid who played Henry Bowers felt super bad about it.
I bet.
And did not want to do it.
Well, that's just such a bad place to put... I don't know.
John Ritter specifically said he remembered being on set when they did that, and he said it was super sweet how much it hurt him to have to say that.
Well, that's like the Henry Bowers in the new movie. Apparently, he was like the sweetest kid and was like best friends with all of the kid actors behind the scenes.
And these are kids who are having to do this stuff, and it sort of touched my heart too, that he would be so hurt that he would have to say that, because that tells you how self-aware these kids were when they were making this.
It was unnecessary.
Yeah.
For me to. I don't know.
So, before we get to part 2, did you want to take a break real quick?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. So, we will be I got so close to not flubbing up. We'll be right back after a break that you will not hear listening to this.
So you won't hear any sponsors.
I don't have any idea why I'm even
putting
a button on it. Okay, we'll be back. Brandon's back. We're back. Part 2. Here we go. Okay, so we mentioned earlier, adult Mike is Tim Reed from Sister Sister.
Tim Reed, yeah.
Bill's wig is terrible.
Oh my God.
If it is a wig, we still are unsure about that.
It's got to be a wig. There's no way you would... I mean, that was very luscious.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could go either way, but if he has that hair today, he should get it cut. I don't know what that guy's doing today.
Is that guy still acting today?
I have no idea.
I don't know either.
We don't have time to look it up. Let's see. Adult Richie is Harry Anderson from Night Court, like we mentioned earlier.
Good show.
Scene I wanted to mention is adult Mike and Bill having fun with the bike.
Oh,
Silver.
Yeah.
The Motown on in the background was a nice touch. Mm-hmm. So that was my first moment of the soundtrack where I'm like, okay, this isn't so bad.
Right.
I like this. And let's see. Adult Ben is John Ritter.
Who, again, is looking mighty good with that beard.
Yeah, I mean, it totally fits.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot that John Ritter was in this.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, so I was pleasantly surprised by that once we got to him being on screen. I guess he was in part 1 too, but so
could you not rub on this?
Bev, here's what I mentioned. Bev looks wholesome as an adult, but she had been living hard away from dairy. You get no feeling that they have any history outside of Derry. So that's sort of across the board with all of the people. Like, you know, you get very small glimpses into the life outside of Derry, but it's not as rough as it should.
It's a very toned down version.
Yeah. So that definitely bothered me because...
Well, and then another difference between the book, since I have read the beginning so far of the book, is with what is it? Eddie? Eddie was the one with all the medications, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
In the book, he's married to a woman that is just like his mother.
Right.
And in the movie version, he still lives with his mother.
Right.
Who was apparently a very well-off woman.
Yeah.
It seemed like.
It's a strange difference. I don't understand why.
What was also weird that they included was in the book version. Thank you. He keeps fucking with this. In the book version, Eddie and his wife own like a limo company, or they drive for a limo company.
Yeah.
And then in the movie version, you see him get into a limo and talk to the guy about drivers and who he's going to be driving. And I'm like, well, this makes no sense. Like, why even include that if you're not going to go into detail about how him and his wife were already arguing about who was going to be driving?
Yeah, it just doesn't really...
I was like, why include that then?
Yeah, there's not really... It doesn't matter.
No.
You know, so why, you're right. Like, why even go to the lengths to do that?
Why even have that conversation?
If you have time for this detail, then where's all these other important stuff that we should know?
You could have added something
yeah.
way better in. Or made it his wife and not his mom.
Yeah. I don't know. The details...
I'm always very curious about how they pick and choose what they're going to use and how they're going to use it.
Well, in the director's commentary, the director also mentions that he did not read the book before accepting this job as well. Like, he did in the process of writing, but
he didn't know what he was getting into.
I don't think. I mean, he had a vague idea, I think.
He probably had a vision.
Yeah.
And read the book and was like, oh.
Yeah. So
I better add some things in from this book.
I feel like a fan gives this the love it deserves, you know, the time it deserves to. Like, the guy, I can't remember the director of the new stuff, the new version off the top of my head, but you could tell he was a fan. You could tell the people who were involved in writing all knew what elements were important, what deserves TLC, you know, and it just is not there in this.
This reminds me of something very off topic. Can I share it really quickly? Did you see the teaser trailer for the new Ghostbusters?
I haven't yet. It just went up.
Oh my god.
Yeah, is it cool?
It gives nothing away but the music, because it's going to be directed and written by the son of the original director.
Oh, okay, yeah.
For the life of me, I can't think of their names.
I can't either, but...
So yeah, the Reitman. Ivan Reitman was the original director.
Right,
Jason Reitman is his son. And Ivan Reitman did Ghostbusters 1 and 2. And Jason was actually in 2 as a kid.
Oh, wow.
He's in the very beginning scene where the Ghostbusters go for a birthday party.
Oh, okay.
And he's the little kid who says, "My dad says you guys are full of crap," or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not remaking. He's adding on to the original Ghostbusters universe.
Wow.
So it's going to show everything that happened in Ghostbusters 20-ish whatever years ago happened, and now this is present day.
That's pretty cool.
And this, like, the teaser trailer is the same music that you're gonna love, like that eerie, ooh, you know, like type shit, and it gets you so excited. And then when you read the article, it just sounds like a whole bunch of love. Like, he has been wanting to do this, but he hasn't, and now he's secretly been doing it.
Yeah.
And it just sounds amazing. So I feel like that's going to be one of those things where it's going to be made with love.
Yeah, it's promising.
And it's the son of the original, and he knows, and his dad's going to be helping with him. I think he's going to, like, executive produce.
Oh, sweet.
So...
Well, that's exciting.
It's super exciting.
Yeah.
But as you were talking about that, I'm just like, this just is everything that the new Ghostbusters sounds like it's going to be.
Well, and is everything we can hope for the second part of it as well. Mm-hmm. You know, there's stuff in this in part 2 of this TV thing that is missing.
Yeah.
Giant omissions.
But hopefully we'll be in the new one.
Yeah, and that all came down to just money. You know what I mean? Like the director talks about just not having any real way to put it on screen with the money they were given. So that's the difference between now and back then. You know, if they made a series out of this today on TV, it would be a season probably,
and it would be amazing.
And they would have all kinds of money. So anyway, let's get back to this. So they're all going to different areas of town in this. They kind of are split up at the beginning, and then they come together
at the restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mentioned in my notes Bev's dad's makeup, the kind of corpse in drag thing where she goes to her old house and is tricked by the name on the mail slot, and then she looks again and it's not there. So that was kind of cool because that's like a trickery sort of thing, you know. It's odd, and then she gets pulled in, and then clearly everything is wrong when she gets in there. She goes in the bathroom. She's freaked out by the bathroom.
Well, and then you realize that the house has been boarded up. So did she really even? She didn't even really go in the house.
Yeah,
right? She's just been thinking she did.
I guess.
Time outside the house.
So then we go to the. I know we're skipping things here and there, but I'm just reading from my notes. What I thought was important to mention. We go to the dinner scene. It's a break from the action, and we finally kind of see our characters as they're supposed to be. You know, they're all together. They are interacting. You know,
it's the everyone needs a hug party of one.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and Bev is the Bev that we don't like really in this. She's too wholesome. It
just seems fake.
Yeah, exactly.
And forced and weird and not.
But they do mention in the commentary that this was one of their favorite things that they got to do in the whole thing. Is like they actually went to this place. It seemed
like they had fun.
They went to a real Chinese restaurant and ate together and had a blast. And they can actually have a real conversation and joke around with each other while they're on camera because
you didn't hear anything.
Yeah, because of the Motown soundtrack, which is a cool touch, and it's one of my favorite scenes, maybe my favorite scene in the movie actually. Just them kind of hamming it up and Richie doing his thing, and
it was a good scene.
You finally get a better idea of who the characters are when you don't really before that. You kind of do when they're kids, but I don't know. So again, the Motown soundtrack is awesome. It might even be the same song. Like they had money for one song.
Right.
Definite mess up that I noticed is when they showed the outside of the insane asylum of this town. As we will know from Castle Rock, it's Juniper Hill.
Right.
On the sign, it's Juniper Hills.
Oh.
And they
added some hills?
Yeah, they added a couple hills. And they even say Juniper Hills when they're talking about Henry Bowers being in there. In this conversation they have at the dinner, they're talking about 30-year increments.
Yeah.
It's 27. So why make it 30? Who knows?
I don't know. Again, why
30
do they change the details that they change?
30 doesn't sound better.
No.
Why not just...
Don't lick it.
Venom just licked Debbie's donut.
He sat on it. He's licked it.
Oh, good times.
I was planning. I'm going to eat it when you leave.
The question, though, do all the changes just get irritating at some point? Like, while you're watching this, were you as irritated as I was by even the small things like that now? Because that's the thing, is, like, you're watching this after having read the book, like...
Well, I haven't even read the entire book, and I was irritated with the things that I saw.
You just kind of... And I'm sure not even exactly knowing was changed. You get the feeling like things are not quite the same. The experience of this story as we knew it gets so warped by this TV version. It's like I said, it's not the same feeling that I got while I was reading it.
Well, when you were reading it, you were telling me that it was scary.
It is. It freaked me out.
and it's not in the miniseries.
I had weird dreams.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, for a novel to affect me that way, that's good. You know
Although,
what I mean?
I will say, I like having a face,
Yeah.
of somebody to picture that's scary. So it is nice to have seen the movies before reading it, because now I can picture what he looks like,
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean,
so it is helpful for that mental image, but
sure. To like at least have a placeholder in your mind. But I feel like my version is better than even this.
Well, and that's why I stayed away from the book for so long.
Yeah.
Because I was like, if the miniseries scared me that severely when I was younger, what is the book going to do?
Tim Curry is great. I mean, like, visually, he's good and he acts well. You know what I mean? So I don't really see him as the weakness in this. I just feel like the storytelling itself.
Yeah, the writing was pretty bad.
And the acting isn't great either.
No. Oh, I figured out the other wrongdoing number. They listed science as just like on the end cap signs, and then put the 100, like 100 numbers.
Okay.
Science is not in the hundreds. Depending on what science you're looking into, it depends on what number it is.
Yeah.
But like, usually that's a 500 area.
Yeah, and it's also split up into different sciences. It's not.
Yeah, it doesn't just say science.
I think they were just
It's like
labeling...
when you watch a movie and they're like, I'll have a beer.
Yeah.
Like, well, what kind of beer? There's a million kinds.
A devil's in the details.
Not at this bar. Not at this library.
So overall, these are not the characters that we love. So I am irritated as I'm watching it. So we fast forward a little bit to it outside its lair. We have the small kids door that is definitely in the book. Is a cool detail that they included.
I was wondering about that.
The or the less than kid size door. It's like a toddler size door. It's just a cool visual. It doesn't really mean anything.
Did it describe it with skulls all around and candles lit?
Well, yeah, that's one thing I noticed, that there was candles lit. It's like, who lit those candles?
I know. I'm like, that's a very courteous spider.
And is it like, are those candles also phantom? Or
I know. Are they
them?
magic candles that are just always lit? I don't know.
I do know, yes, that there are kids' bones and stuff around the lair. I don't know about outside of it, but
it was just very nicely molded around the door. Like he took time.
So we are skipping over a lot of this second part, but most of it.
The second part seems to go really fast.
The entire thing does. Like when you just compare the two versions, it's pretty startling, how much they omit. The spider, and I'll get to a big omission thing here in a minute, but the spider. So the thing that everybody knows from this movie. This is one of the most memorable things from this movie, if I can say that word.
And the thing that people are wondering if it will be in the new one.
Yeah. Well,
which I don't know how it's written in the book.
There will be a creature that is spider-ish.
Okay.
Because that is in the book. But there's big things surrounding that I'll get to in a second. But the spider in this is so clunky, and the only thing the actors can do in the scene with it is push it over.
Yeah, and have their mouth open.
And they push it on its side, and they punch and kick it, and then they pull some guts out.
They rip its heart out, right?
Well, they rip its heart out, but what they do is they move the camera shot over to shadows on the wall, and I think why they did this, and I don't know if they ever even actually mentioned exactly why, but I think why they did this is because it looks so bad.
Well, it looked like they were ripping a person in half too from the shadow. Like it didn't look like what they were really doing.
No, and it's I think that they knew it was gonna look as hokey as it ends up looking, so they go to some shadows so that you can't poke so many holes in it like we're trying to do right now.
Well, and then even right before that, where you see the spider like coming out of the the cave opening,
Yeah.
like where they're at.
Yeah.
And when they have the widescreen angle where you see like all of their backs and like the spider coming,
Yeah.
it looks so bad.
Oh yeah, and
oh my god, it looks so bad.
Again, limitations of the time.
Oh my gosh.
It's a I want to say that it's a stop motion animation when it's far away.
Kind of. It didn't even.
Like
I
when
mean,
it's moving around.
It definitely was not there with them. It was something that they added in.
It's in
after.
the distance.
Yeah. Well.
So it's like a blue screen thing.
Yeah,
and then they did a stop motion animation, and then when they go and confront it again after it kills,
then it's like the animatronic thing.
Yeah, it kills Eddie.
Which, how the hell did it kill Eddie? It held him and then dropped him.
Well, I mean, it's a big funky spider, so like I feel like Eddie did as best as he could. Like the guy who played him did as best as he could. There's
but there was no trauma to him. It was just like, I'm holding you, and then I dropped you, and you fell on your legs.
No blood,
and now you're dead.
There's no limbs. There's no all that stuff is because of TV, I think.
And his hair didn't go white, so it wasn't like he looked into the deadlights, and it did whatever. Like he didn't change. He just looked the same, and like it's weird.
And in the book, the sequences are way cooler.
Mm-hmm.
They have to go around in the sewer.
They get lost.
Yeah, they get super lost. And Henry, we actually skipped over this. When Henry comes and attacks Mike at the library, it's a crazy, frightening sequence.
Well, in the movie, it's at the hotel, so it's in the library in the book.
Let's see. It is at the hotel.
Okay.
But I want to say that Bev's husband comes to town too.
See, I figured we would see more of him in the book.
Yeah, I want to say he's omitted. I should know this because I read it only like a couple months ago. But I think he comes to town and finds Henry somewhere, and they go around together.
Oh, they team up? That sounds like a great idea. I want to say
they do. So we're getting more omitted. And I'm sorry that I don't know more details on that. I should. But anyway, Henry attacks Mike, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a very kind of stunted scene in itself. He barely anything happens in there, and then he just dies.
It's a lot of hugging.
Yeah,
and then a knife in his chest, which the knife in Henry's chest kills him, but the knife in Mike does not.
Yeah, and then Henry, I believe, escapes from that attack, and
in the book
chases them into the sewer.
Oh, in the book.
I want to say that is what happens.
I felt like he probably had. I mean, why show him again if you're just gonna have him like try to kill somebody and then die?
Yeah, it's it's a big jumble of stuff that, and there's plenty of other stuff in the book at the end that I want to mention, and I will here in a second. But we move past the spider, thank God. Mm-hmm. We move past the spider because it looks awful. Bill and Audra are on their bike. And
well, yeah, because Audra gets
taken by it, right?
Yeah, and then she gets taken by it.
Yeah, and they save her from the lair,
right?
And she's like catatonic, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the final sequences of Stephen King's story is him putting Audra on the bike with him, and they go for a ride, and it helps bring her back. Mm-hmm.
Because he almost kills her in traffic.
Yeah, so I mentioned that they stop in the middle of an intersection in which all cars are apparently moving at once.
Yeah, in all directions.
Why?
There's no lights.
They all stop at the same time surrounding them, which, okay, for visual effect, yes, but in any world where cars are moving, that never happens. No. Where they're all trying to go at the same time, and then
everybody's got green,
and then simultaneously they all get out of their cars at the same time too. Like that would never happen either. People would be yelling outside of their car and
and honking and
So, suffice to say, big issues with the ending of this book,
this
TV version. I mean,
and then also you have you have Mike Hanlon doing his little narrative, you know, while he's writing in his journal, and he's talking about how they're sometimes even forgetting each other's names now. I'm like, why would you forget each other's names? Like, is there a weird curse now coming over you to make you forget everything?
That is actually in line with the book.
But they don't explain it.
No, they
in
don't.
the movie.
Right.
So it just seems really weird.
They've never established this whole thing about forgetting and remembering and, you know, or at least not concretely enough for us to care or understand it.
I definitely not understand it, that's for sure.
But on the way out in the book, Mike Hanlon is doing his journal entries where he's the one that holds, because he stayed in town, he has the closest connection and remembers everything and pulls everybody back together. He's the last one to lose everything, as everyone else is also losing everything as they move out of town and go their separate ways.
So they're just not going to be friends again?
Yeah, they all kind of go their separate directions. I mean,
besides Bev and Ben, who get together in the movie.
and then Audra and Bill stay together because they're married. You know, they're married. Yeah. So besides that,
just seems really weird.
Yeah, it's kind of, at least in King's story, it's a reflection of life and how we move on from our childhood eventually. And we, despite as much as we try, almost every childhood friendship that we have, no matter how strong it was at one time, sort of fades away. You know what I mean? And like life it does. It's like we all die eventually. We all drift away from each other. As much as human beings love to be connected to each other and how strongly we are attracted to each other as kids, that all goes away.
I agree, but I also feel like it's Stephen King's thing that he does. He builds up this huge story and then he just ends it. And I have a real big problem with how he does that.
Yeah.
So am I going to have a problem with this? Like, is it just going to end on me? Am I going to be wanting more?
No, Am
I going to feel satisfied?
I felt very satisfied. I feel like the novel stands the test of time. It holds up big time.
Okay.
It's definitely it's a contender for my favorite book of his now.
Because I will never forget how he treated me with his book Cell.
Yeah.
I will never forget that.
Hashtag never forget. Yeah, no, I loved the novel. I loved the ending. I love it. I actually loved it all the way through. I felt like he nailed his interpretation of the characters and how they relate to each other, and the story he told was a complete one.
He's always great with his characters.
Sometimes his endings are kind of wonky, though.
They're very abrupt.
But it isn't an abrupt ending. It's he is laying you down on a pillow. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of the point of the epilogue at the end of this story with Mike Hanlon's journal.
Okay.
Or maybe it's Bill's journal. I can't. It's one of the two. But he's letting you go gently into the wind or whatever. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, he's not laying down a iron curtain at the end and saying, "Okay, that's the end. We're done."
Well, it almost feels like with like Cell, where you're reading it and you get to the very last word, and it was like Stephen King just yanked the book out of your hands. It was like, that's all you get.
Yeah.
Like,
some of
you're
them
done.
are like that. Yeah. I thought this one was great. The TV version not so much. Mm-hmm. Big issues with the end are two things: the spider, of course, and the giant omission of this ethereal battle with the supernatural being of it. So Bill,
like the Deadlights.
Well, okay, so
because they don't mention that in the new movie.
It's sort of hard to explain, but Bill, in his segment of the final battle with it, it and him, their essence or their beings get sucked up into sort of like this ethereal world between worlds, and it is a being who lives sort of outside of our reality and has forced his way into ours in prehistoric ages, and he's lived in this where Derry is since then, and has fed off of things that are around in the area of Derry since back then, and he comes back every 27 years and does the same thing and feeds off of people throughout. And Mike kind of gives you that history in the book of all this terrible shit that happens every 27 years or whatever. So Bill, I believe it's Bill, gets sucked into this thing, and he has this battle with him in this other world between worlds, right? He gets help from this force of good, and he describes it as a turtle god.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's crazy out there stuff.
What was King on when he wrote this book? Do we know?
Exactly.
Was this during his heyday?
I think it was.
Okay.
Pretty sure it was. So, because it's this super, sort of really hard to explain thing. We're talking about ethereal beings and gods and battles between worlds, and it's heady stuff, right?
Right.
So TV movie,
it's not gonna get it.
We're not getting it. It's just not gonna happen. You know what I mean? Now, in King's version, it's super crazy and it's an amazing read. You are so locked in.
Yeah.
I did not take a break when I read that part. I spent, I don't know how long it was that I was sucked into that thing, how long that section is. It's not, overly long, but it's a chunk. You know what I mean? And it's super interesting. It's unlike anything else in the book. So you're like, holy shit, we're going this place? we're hanging out with turtle gods?
So do you think then, since they'll have more money for the new movie, do you think that they may go into that?
Another part of this that I didn't mention is it's called the Battle of Chud. Okay, so that's the name for it. And the Battle of Chud is where you're challenging this being to a battle, and you bite its tongue. And when you bite its tongue, either it's telling you jokes or you're telling it jokes, and you can't laugh, or else you'll cease to be. So in this battle, that's what's happening.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's this crazy shit. I mean, when you get to it, you'll.
So this is the battle when they're adults or when they're kids?
This is when they're adults.
Okay.
I think. No. Okay, so how they tell it in the book is you're getting the battle when they're kids and the battle when they're adults.
So they're doing it again.
Combined.
Okay.
It's like a thing where they go back and forth. So it's very hard for me to remember exactly what happens when.
Right.
But there is this battle, the battle of Chud or whatever, and you got him being sucked into this other world. So all of this shit is happening, and there's no way they could ever put it in this.
So what they did was they put a spider.
Yeah. So what they did is they put a giant spider, and then they pushed it over and kicked it and pulled out its guts, and that's it.
And that was it.
So
and there's your Battle of Chud.
Yeah. Well, the Battle of Chud is non-existent because trying to explain that when we don't even really get a sense of who most of these characters are. That's at least how I feel about it. I don't know about people that are going to listen to this and how they feel about it, but I feel like in this TV version we get a very sanitized version, and without that whole sequence at the end, I feel a big empty thing here at the end that just is ignored.
Right.
How could you ignore this craziness? It's in the book, it fits. It shouldn't, but it does, and it's so wacky and crazy, and I loved every second of it. So how I'm left not getting even a taste of that watching this it took a piece of my heart when I watched this, and I didn't expect it because I kind of knew we were getting giant spider and that's it, and why I was super disappointed when I was a kid and when I was in junior high watching it again. But that's what it is, so you got to accept it for what it is. I don't feel like it's a satisfying ending, even discounting whatever else Stephen King did in his book. I just feel like if you
just watched it, for what it was.
Yeah, I was still unsatisfied.
And also,
it's not scary.
Why are the deadlights on a train or something? Like, I felt like while it was going through, like the piping, I felt like I should have heard like the chugga 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 sound.
Well, yeah, because the effects of it make it look like it's a train coming up the tracks of a tunnel.
Yeah. Although I still really love the scene where Henry Bauer's friend, and I forget what his name is, Belch or something.
Something like that.
When he gets sucked into the tunnel
he
gets folded in half. I still love that scene.
That's a cool visual.
Yeah.
But I feel like their lights coming out of a tunnel is the only way they could get away with showing some kind of effect that describes what it is, the essence of it is.
I guess.
Because
it just felt very train-like.
But yeah, because it's a practical effect that doesn't work.
Floating over them, it was very like spaceship.
Yeah.
Flying saucer. And I was like, why is it flying over them so slowly?
It just feels...
if it's a spider.
It just is cheap. It feels cheap. It is.
It was so bad.
So I got a little bit of extra stuff on the tail end of this that I want to mention from the director's commentary.
Okay.
As I mentioned, the director didn't read it before reading the script.
Which is crazy.
So there was an existing script because there's two guys who were involved in the making of this. I don't have the box, so I can't tell you the DVD box, so I can't tell you what their names are, but they combined their efforts to get this thing done. He calls the kid actors a pain in the ass on set.
Oh.
So that was kind of mean. He, as I mentioned before, he didn't have much money to work with. No big surprise there because it was 1990 and we're dealing with TV.
And Stephen King.
Right. So it was awesome hearing John Ritter and Tim Reed joke around. Tim Reed is Mike, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, the guy that played Eddie is with them in this commentary.
Oh, okay.
There's a few commentary tracks. One is the one of the directors. One is three of the actors. John Ritter, Tim Reed, and then the guy that played Eddie, and then the other one is Bill by himself.
Did they have any like behind the scenes stuff or deleted scenes or extra footage? No.
Nope, just the commentary. That's it.
Okay.
They probably didn't have any room on the DVDs back then for extra stuff, or maybe there wasn't even any deleted scenes.
Yeah, maybe.
I can't imagine there were any because it's 3 hours.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they probably threw everything in that they could. The commentary track reminded me how much I miss John Ritter, though, because he's amazing on this commentary. Mm-hmm. It's totally, like, I know you haven't listened to it yet. It's totally worth going and checking out, nerding out one night, and just listening to John Ritter's input on this stuff, because he remembers a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's lots of cool stories from behind the scenes of this, so it's totally worth listening to. Let's see. They talked about getting the actors in the group scenes to have to stand close together because of the TV screen format at the time. No. They had to get them.
Had to scrunch.
Yeah, they had to, specifically the dinner scene. They had to plan to get everyone's face to face the camera, and all of that takes a lot of planning. You know what I mean? Like when the camera's moving, they all have to move to different positions, so they'll all still be in frame,
right?
And they'll all be facing the camera and each other.
Well, no wonder they hugged so much. They had to be tight in the
right.
frame.
And even when they're kids, like, and they're in the Barrens, you notice that they're all facing. They're talking, but they're looking towards. They're kind of looking off in the distance, but they're all sitting together, facing the same direction.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on.
I'm pretty sure at one point Kid Bev looks directly at the camera.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
For a while,
Yeah.
too. Like, and it's a close-up shot, and I'm like, are you looking at me right now? Why are you looking at me?
Oh, in the break, you had something you wanted to mention from when they're in the brains looking at the book.
Oh,
the journal.
yeah. I paused, and I
or the
made
photo
a little
book.
video clip, to show you. You can definitely see the hand that pops out of
Yeah.
the photo album. You can see below the photo album and the arm that is
Yeah.
attached to that hand. Very briefly, but it's there.
So cool practical effects in work there. I liked that you had such a keen eye on everything.
Anytime there's like practical effects, I'm like, I want to see how they did it.
So Tim Curry did not want to do heavy makeup for his character. I'm not 100% sure why.
I don't think he got his way on that.
Well, the director did insist on the bulbous forehead kind of look. But aside from that, they did very little clown makeup. So, yes, he is covered in clown makeup, but his face is very distinct as it is.
It is. And
so,
I don't think I showed you this photo, but Dexter and I were watching Home Alone 2, which Tim Curry is in.
Yeah.
And I said to Dexter, hey, do you know what else this guy has been in?
Yeah.
And he was like, no. But I paused it in such a way that it's dead to real him, and there's no mistaking it, that is him under that makeup.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, they didn't do very much.
No.
You notice in that photo you're showing me now, just above his forehead, the bulb is kind of rounded.
Yeah, you can see where they put the makeup on it.
Yeah, so...
But that blew the kid's mind.
Oh, yeah, I mean...
He had no idea that scary clown was also in this funny movie.
Yeah, I mean, what's great is, Tim Curry's not doing a lot of acting now. I think he has some kind of degenerative disease,
He's in a wheelchair.
Yeah, so...
Well, he had a stroke.
Yeah, so maybe that's what it is. But he could still talk. So, for the anniversary of this, I think they did something maybe a few years ago where he talked before they showed the movie or something like that.
I believe so, yeah.
So,
and
he's still around.
Everybody's still holding out hope he'll be in the new one.
Oh, I mean, it would be cool. I don't know what kind of role he would have because he's in a wheelchair, but
Guy on street.
Yeah, something like that. It would be cool.
It would be very cool. I mean, I would totally love him to be Guy on street.
I trust the people in the new that are involved in the new interpretations of it so much that whatever they do, I think it's going to be great. I'm pretty sure that Battle of Chud and stuff is going to be in it. I believe someone has actually said that. One of the people that are writing it or directing it or whatever.
Well, I know from the beginning that they said they wanted to stick close to the book.
Yeah.
They wanted to be true. I mean, they still weren't because they still left a whole bunch of stuff out.
Yeah, and I think the danger of including that big stuff at the end is people who haven't read the book are going to be like, WTF,
right.
But everybody else who has read it and is yearning to see this fucking craziness on screen is like, yeah, give it to me.
Right. Well, and also what's weird is the new version of the movie doesn't have any of the adults.
Yeah.
You don't see any of them.
Yeah.
So in the second part, we're going to see them as adults and then as flashbacks.
Yeah. Some very interesting choices in actors too. Some big names are going to be in that movie. So I'm excited.
McAvoy. I can't believe.
McAvoy. Who's playing Eddie? Damn it, what's his name? Anyway, we can't get bogged down in that because we're too far into this. Okay, so Tim Curry looks great, though. You notice we didn't really
I don't have any problems with Tim.
We didn't really dog on Tim Curry at all because he's great. He
did what he could with what they gave him.
Yeah, and he's not as scary as I remember him being, but
no.
I thought he did well with what he was given. So there's that. And the director says that he kind of let him do what he wanted to do most of the time, be all crazy. Some of that stuff's improv. He didn't really say exactly what was and what wasn't, but
it was a great laugh he had.
Oh, totally, yeah. I remember in the commentary him getting specifically excited when the Eddie sequence when he first comes back to town and he's in the library.
Oh yeah.
That stuff is great. Tim Curry's great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody would argue with that.
No.
I noted that they mentioned the cigarette man from X-Files is the principal in the kids' sequences.
Oh, really?
I think it's only one scene that he's in, but it's...
Oh, yeah, in the cafeteria where what's his face? Eddie.
Eddie's,
runs into him.
Right before the shower thing, I think. Something like that.
I don't remember, something.
Okay, so...
Oh, no, it was Richie that ran into
That's
them.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the director also mentioned that they went to a real Chinese restaurant, which I mentioned earlier, but he said that these were the people that were waiting on... The waitress was actually someone who worked there.
Oh, really?
But I kind of I think it's the lady from Happy Gilmore. So...
Which lady?
The lady who comes to his telecom thing that's outside his apartment, pushes on the button when he's singing into it and comes up, and he wakes up in the morning and she's like, "You know what, breakfast?"
Okay, yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Remember that scene.
I mean, I might just be being a little racist or something, but I think it's her.
Okay.
I didn't look that up, but it looks a lot like her. So, take that for what it is. So, John Ritter wanted the Turtle God sequence, and he specifically noted it. So he's not bullshitting that he is a fan, and he did read the book before he took this role. So, but he says they spent all their money on the giant spider, so...
all $5
wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So you could tell he's a fan of Stephen King and he actually cares. So, and that's throughout. He mentions things throughout the commentary that are totally worth checking it out. It's not just something that's a passive thing.
Yeah.
A lot of these commentaries are just kind of boring.
For sure.
And they're just sort of for film nerds, but they mixed it up and had the director and had the actors, so you get a mixed bag. He points out how the kid hands Bowers the switchblade. Okay, so Henry is in Juniper Hill.
Right. Juniper Hills.
Juniper Hills.
They added hills.
The kid who's his gang partner hands him the switchblade.
Belcher or something.
Yeah, but he's a phantom, or we're supposed to be led to believe.
But he can hold knives.
All we see of people seeing stuff is ghosts or phantoms or whatever. They're illusions. So how does he hand him a switchblade?
I don't know.
It's a physical object that he uses to attack people.
He had to have had some kind of shank that he made that he was just imagining.
I don't think so. They didn't explain. They never explained that. So how is that a thing? We can't just make up things and say that that's what they were.
I don't know.
doing.
Those balloons pop up everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. So there's weird consistency issues with this that we obviously have pointed out. References how Bev had sex with everyone in the book, which
John Ritter references that?
Yes,
okay.
We didn't really mention that, but
it's a major thing in the book.
It's a major omission in the book. It's actually not as perverted as people make it out to be.
It's the way that they get out of the tunnels.
Yeah, it's how they are able to...
Because they have to come together.
They're they're strengthening their connection again, and that's the only... that she realizes that's the only way that she can pull their connection together.
It's so weird, though.
It's weird. It's super weird.
Very weird.
I feel like he could have made something else up.
Yeah, he definitely could have.
Besides children having sex with each other.
Yeah, because they're 12.
Well, yeah. Is that the specific age?
I don't know. I feel like that's the
however
age they're
young
going
they
on
are,
with.
they're too young.
Yeah, too young to be having a gangbang.
Well,
in the sewers.
Yeah, they're so. Yeah,
I
guess we would call it a gangbang.
Love. I mean, that's what it is. Or you could say, they're. Oh, what's the where you're just in a line.
I don't know if it's necessary to go any further with this.
It's just so weird. It's so weird.
It's fucked up.
I haven't gotten to that point yet either, but I know it happens and it's so weird.
He mentions it though on the commentary, and the two other actors with him get very quiet.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they had no idea.
Nobody says anything back to him when he mentions it. He doesn't go any further. It just gets kind of awkwardly quiet. And then
as it should.
Yeah, and then we move on. It's noticeably quiet, by the way.
So weird.
It seems like he's more apt to call out the film for what it is than some of the other actors and the director. Like kind of throughout, they're talking about how much they loved the experience more than they actually loved the movie.
Right.
But John Ritter actually is calling out its flaws and being like, this isn't in it, this isn't in it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, like, that makes me like John Ritter even more. You know what I mean?
R.I.P. John Ritter.
He gave a shit. You could tell he gave a shit. It wasn't just a paycheck kind of thing. You know what I mean? And he's one of the better actors in the movie, and he's one of the better characters that we get in the movie. Not just because of who he is in the book. Like, he's actually almost better of a character
than Bill?
Actor-wise than Bill or some of the others who are arguably more important in the book.
Yeah.
He makes his character more important.
It could well be that, he might have been offered Bill, and he could have said, no, I really liked Ben in the book. It could have been something where, like, he just felt connected to Ben.
Yeah.
And, said, I wanted to be Ben.
Right. And Bill... The guys who play Bill and Richie, or not Richie, Eddie and Mike, almost all of them kind of don't ever mention anything bad about it.
Yeah.
It's like they're afraid to. Which, they
don't want those residual paychecks to start coming.
Yeah. They're doing a commentary track, though, for fans, though, so I kind of get it, but at the same time, like, you gotta
be real.
You gotta call a spade a spade.
Right.
A movie that's noticeably bad, you can mention it that it's not quite as good as it could be.
Right. But still say we had fun.
Yeah. Let's see. And he admits kind of losing the scariness of Pennywise to the spider robot at the end hinders the ending. Like, this entire 2-part miniseries movie, we've only known Tim Curry Pennywise as the villain, and now we get Spider.
Right.
And it's kind of like, well, why?
Yeah.
And we never really
how?
get an answer why. And how, right? Like, how is he a spider?
And also a clown. And also, like, your worst nightmare.
And, also he's a phantom. Like an illusion.
And where is he getting all of these balloons?
You know what? At the end of this podcast, that's the real question. He's a clown, so I feel like that's half of the equation.
I guess. But they're all filled with blood. How is he getting the blood in there and then blowing them up?
Well, the blood, it's kind of like water balloons, but blood.
I guess.
And, I feel like it's the blood of the children.
But they're very light and airy, like,
Yeah. But but at the end of this commentary and the end of this podcast and the end of this movie, the director finally admits that the story and effects failed on some level. So he waits, seriously, all the way till the very end, the wrap up, like the credits are rolling. He's like, yeah, it kind of didn't work. It's like, well, come on, man. You could have said something about that all the way through. There's shit that's not working all the way through this thing.
Not just this.
So, yes, this podcast has been an exercise in hole poking. I understand that. But we are calling it what it is. I feel like if we weren't poking holes, we wouldn't be honest about what this thing is,
Do we have a Stephen King cameo in this? I didn't see him.
I don't believe there is one, no.
Okay.
He didn't. I don't know why either. They never actually mentioned him.
It was a big time for him at this point to do cameos.
Yeah.
He was in all of his other movies.
That's weird. I never even thought about it. but yeah, he's not in this.
No.
Maybe Tim Curry was like, no, this is my movie.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's weird. Maybe I'll look into that.
Do you want some of the quotes that people had?
Oh, yeah. So I asked you to pull a couple of quotes from Amazon or IMDb or wherever, and this is kind of a thing that runs through the other Watchers shows. So I felt like that would tie us in with theirs.
Right.
So, Debbie, go ahead and give us some quotes from people who either liked or disliked this movie.
Well, I'll let you decide if they liked or disliked this movie.
Okay.
Okay, so the first quote, which we heard part of earlier, was cheese-tastic trash fun. There's a reason that the scary clown, in quotes, phenomenon started. We have Tim Curry to thank for it. He's the only reason to watch it. Everything else is just over the top histrionics, but Pennywise, absolutely terrifying.
Well, I'll say he's mostly right, just because like Tim Curry's definitely the bright spot of this and the most memorable. Besides the spider for different reasons, memorable for terrible reasons. But I don't know. I feel like John Ritter is a really good part of this too, and to not even mention him being good.
Well, this next person says, Stephen King, what the hell drugs were you taking? Which I feel like is a valid question.
Yeah.
Especially with Turtle.
The Turtle God. Battle of Chud.
Right.
Thing.
But he didn't even see that part.
No, he's purely commenting on
the movie.
This movie.
Yeah.
And like I don't know if that's really is that on point?
I don't know. I feel like you can't ask that question if you don't
I don't think it's like
know the other part.
I think the movie's kind of wacky because it's
old.
It's old and not done very well.
Right.
But is it a drug-addled mind worthy? I don't think so.
No. Maybe the spider at the
end. I mean, putting that kind of button on the end of this whole experience, is weird. You know, is a very odd choice. So,
well, it's funny you say that. The next person I have wrote very odd yet interesting, but somehow I got lost in the plots, which I feel like is a very true statement.
Oh yeah, we were lost. I mean, if you don't have Stephen King's prior text to tie you into what is trying to be told to you in this movie, there's a lot of holes. There's a lot of things that are sort of skipped over or unexplained or sped through. So yeah, that's the closest one I think. Odd is a very good word for it. It's not good. So
okay, so I have two more.
Okay.
The next one is, I believe that it in the movie is drugs or addictions that people may have. All I can say is I would not want to be Stephen King with that imagination. And then the last one I have, all they wrote was bored.
Well, I'll say this. I got pretty bored a couple of times.
Yeah.
It did move along pretty quickly, though. So, like, if I was bored, it moved to the next scene.
I felt like as soon as I flipped over the DVD and had the last half, it was just like over before I knew it.
Part 2 definitely like sails right through.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that's good or bad.
No. I think it's good.
Which part did you like more?
I like the beginning part better.
I would say, is part 2 the one with the dinner? I think it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to say because that is probably my favorite scene, and they have the fun.
No,
we forgot to mention the funny little effects with like the shells and stuff.
I think the dinner is part 1 because it ends with Stanley being dead, right?
Yeah.
And then it starts with I think them at the library, and that's where they see Stanley's head.
Huh. Well,
I feel like that's where it gets picked up. I think the dinner is in the first part.
Well, whichever one has the dinner in it, that's the one that I liked more.
Okay.
So I guess that's as close as I could get. I can't remember.
I can't remember when I flipped.
We went through it, but let's check it out. Dinner, where are you? Oh, yeah, it's in part 2.
Is it?
Yeah. Okay, so with all those interesting insights, I'll say I disagree with the drug thing, even though Stephen King was certainly on drugs at this point.
Mm-hmm. But you can't tell that just from the movie, I don't think.
No, I think that I think Pennywise is deeper than that. Mm-hmm. He's literally a being from if you take the text as the Bible of the story, which you should. Mm. Which the people that made this movie did not. No. Then he is some kind of being that is unknown to our world, who comes to our world to fuck shit up. Uh-huh. And eat kids.
Eat things.
Mostly kids. Uh-huh. Cause a lot of havoc.
Not even the whole kid.
No.
Just like parts of the kid.
Yeah. Basically, cause as much suffering as possible, mm-hmm. and then hibernate like a clown bear and come back. Years. Yeah, except he sleeps way longer than a bear does. Clown bear.
That's a scary image.
Please, someone out there who has abilities with like Photoshop or whatever, make a clown bear for us. Bear. We would love even a drawing of a clown bear. Ugh. If you made it this far in this podcast, then we deserve a clown bear. Then give us clown bear. Just like I'm going to be watching the second part of the new version of it, hoping to God that they nail it.
Mm-hmm. And give you Turtle God.
And give me that sweet, sweet Turtle God. Who, by the way, during the course of that battle, is eventually just like, man, you're on your own.
Oh my God. What kind of a Turtle God is that?
I mean, he's great. He's cool, and he helps out a little bit. But then he's like, at a certain point, he's like, you got to do this. So he's cool. Turtle God is pretty sweet.
That's so weird.
Oh, and also I forgot to mention earlier, we're gonna wrap this up soon. I promise, listeners. Right after this, if you get to the end of it and you are unsatisfied with the way things wrap up,
the book version,
okay. Or even the new It, if you're unsatisfied with that, read more Stephen King, because it is not the last time that we get Pennywise. So, there isn't an It 2, but Pennywise does return, and, I don't want to get into spoiler territory, so I'm not going to tell you what story.
None that I've read.
None that you've read. I can't say it on mic. I can't throw that big of a spoiler out because it's a big spoiler in a book, and I can't get any more specific than that.
Googles.
He has a lot of books. I'll say this: it isn't one of his short stories.
Okay.
So that's as close as you're getting from me.
Well, it's none of the ones that I've read. Right. I don't think, because that doesn't ring a bell at all.
Yeah, I know it's not one that you've read, so
because I'm very particular about what his books that I read. I'm usually not into the horror. I like more of the sci-fi. Type. So that's what I usually stick to.
Damn, I wish I could get into more detail on Mike, but I can't. I'll tell you off mic.
Okay.
Guys, thank you. Girls, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Go enjoy the movie.
Go enjoy the movie. Why did you listen to this before you watched it? Or why did you not watch it?
We just ruined it. Spoilers.
So many spoilers all the way through. Again, we appreciate you. We love you. Come back and join us again for Season 2 of Castle Rock. And, we may get, crazy and decide to cover another Stephen King thing before the new season starts, because we don't have any idea when the next season's going to start. No. And when we find out and it's way down the line, we'll be like, well, we got to do another podcast in between now. Because if it's like Game of Thrones-ish, where they're like, we're going to take 3 years.
Or even...
I might be exaggerating.
Even like Westworld or American Gods.
Oh, yeah, they're taking their sweet time.
Yeah. Finally, American Gods is coming back on.
Yeah. So, until then... listen to the other Watchers on the Couch podcasts.
Yeah, Watchers at the Movies.
Watchers at the Movies. You guys did one on the Harry Potter sequel, one of the Harry Potter.
Fantastic Beasts. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic Beasts and where to find them.
Mm-hmm. They just did a Venom one.
They just did a Venom one. They just did an Aquaman one. Mm-hmm. That was really good. So check out all those if you haven't listened to those. Listen to my other podcast with Jimmy, Bacon and Nays. Jimmy Jimmarooney. That's all we got for you. Until next time, bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.